Welcome everyone to OnPodcast, the Microsoft podcast, where we talk about Microsoft stuff on a podcast. I'm your host today, Kareem Anderson. I'm joined by.
David Allen, fun one. Saturday morning, how we doing?
We're doing pretty well, pretty well. We have a mixed bag of news today. Some good stuff, some fun stuff, and some less fun stuff, I suppose. Depends on if you're a lawyer or not. If you're a lawyer, you might find all of this stuff fun. So we're gonna get in our opening discussion today and start talking about the future of Activision Blizzard under Microsoft. They didn't win the case yet, but they have put in a bid on what it could be like. They had a briefing in what was it? Brussels this week to kind of, mention to the EU, imagine a future like this. Basically, Microsoft met with the EU regulators, as well as a myriad of other partners and competitors, i.e., Sony, this week to basically hash out concessions that they think that they may need in order to get this $68.2 billion deal finally done with and approved, at least in the EU. We know the CMA is a whole different situation. We haven't even bothered with the FTC yet, but in the EU, they could win hearts and minds and potentially regulators' hearts and minds. Now, following the meeting, because we didn't get too much about what happened in the meeting, but following the meeting, Microsoft hosted an in-person briefing in Brussels to go over its plans, what to do if it successfully acquired the publishing behemoth Activision. That includes a new deal between NVIDIA's GeForce platform and Xbox, as well as a signed and binding agreement for a 10-year contract with Nintendo in order to bring Call of Duty and perhaps other games to the platform. According to Microsoft's president Brad Smith, we've now signed a binding 10-year contract to bring Xbox games to Nintendo gamers. This is just part of our commitment to bring Xbox games and Activision titles like Call of Duty to more players on more platforms. Uh, for any of you who own a Switch, you're probably going to wonder if Call of Duty is even going to melt the whole device down. Um, they weren't specific in which devices they would bring it to. So if Nintendo has maybe a Super Switch or Switch 2 or Switch OLED plus plus, whatever they're going to call it, maybe that device could bring it. You can also obviously stream games via the cloud. So there you go. You can probably play it that way as well. Now, Microsoft is also looking to kind of get NVIDIA in its back pocket. They also got a 10-year deal to bring Call of Duty to the GeForce platform, along with a bunch of other Activision and Xbox titles coming to PC. However, when asked directly about the possible spinoff of Call of Duty from the Activision deal, because that has been probably one of the biggest hurdles for them, Microsoft did not really want to confirm or deny anything. They really didn't even want to get into it. They offered up that there are guardrails that they are ready to put in place, but they didn't say specifically what. Brad Smith, spent some time directly appealing to the EU via the press briefing, highlighting the stark market share difference between Sony and Xbox in the EU, with Microsoft obviously being roughly 20 to 25%, while Sony has, the other lion's share of that market share. But Microsoft is basically going out and pitching the idea that we are guaranteeing Call of Duty. If that is Sony's biggest gripe, they can have it for the next 10 years. Even though the deal, I believe, with Activision should be up in 3 years, if I'm not mistaken. So that's an extra 7 years that Microsoft's throwing on top of that. What are your thoughts on Microsoft basically going to the public and saying, "What do you guys think about this deal?"
Well, I think we're at that point where everybody's trying to figure out where the boundaries of this deal are going to land. We've got, as you said, the CMA's had their opinion, the FTC's had their opinion, now the EU's had their opinion. So I think we're at that point to where Microsoft is saying, what is it going to take to make people happy? And are we willing to make those concessions to make people happy? Because I've seen some say that, you know, maybe Microsoft can't make everybody happy now. I personally don't think that's true. I think, with the size of this deal, Microsoft is going to really stretch their resources and be as flexible as they can to try to get this deal closed. But I'm going to be honest, you know, we looked at what a June, it was a June closing date, I believe, and June's getting closer, folks. We're about to be at March. I don't know that we're going to get this done in June. So as we get closer to June, what's Microsoft thinking? Do they stick with it? Do they continue to make concessions? Do they continue to sit down at the bargaining tables? Or do they say, look, there's just too many hoops to jump through? We're not going to do this. Right now, I think we're on the concession road. They reached out to Nintendo. They have made this deal. They don't, we don't know what Nintendo's next console might be. I kind of got the vibe that Call of Duty would be on whatever hardware Nintendo gives us next, whether it's a console, a handheld, or whatever the case might be. But it's interesting to watch the wheels turn of this. It seems like it changes from week to week. Microsoft is out there, they're public, they're making concessions. Hey, what do you think? What do you want us to do? And I think right now they're open to that. The door is open for these companies and people to walk to Microsoft and say, look, if you want Activision, if you want Call of Duty, this is what we want. Now, how long does that door stay open? I think if we keep inching closer to June without some idea of what a resolution might be, and we're talking about closing this deal, that door with Microsoft, I think, is going to start closing a little bit. I mean, how long do you stretch it out?
That's a good question to ask. And you know us, we will be reporting about this constantly. So keep your eyes peeled. Visit our Twitter on Microsoft as the handle, or the website, because like many of you, this has become a hobby of mine to keep track of all of the Activision deals. Speaking of which, let's get into our headlines. And you have an Activision headline as well.
Yeah, I saw this when we reported on it earlier this week, and I kind of went, do what? Yes, folks, Activision got hacked and supposedly did not tell the
Yeah,
employees.
not good. Not good.
That's not a good look, especially when you've got Microsoft on your wing over here trying to make a little purchase.
Yeah.
Looks like this happened sometime around December of 2022.
So
Let's
recently.
see, it was December 4th. According to TechCrunch, a hacker had posted several images related to Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 DLC release dates as well as upcoming Call of Duty projects. Jupiter and I'm going to call it Cerebus. If I am butchering that name, folks, I am sorry. So, they didn't tell their employees, but Activision gave a little bit of a statement and said on December 4th, 2022, our information security team swiftly addressed an SMS phishing attempt and quickly resolved it. Following a, following a thorough investigation, we determined that sensitive employee data, game code, or player data was accessed. But the employees are just now finding out about it. And of course, it's just now making headlines. So I, I kind of got a rough feeling about this. What about you?
Yeah, it's never good to. I mean, it's one thing to be less transparent with the public, but you gotta at least let your employees know, hey,
Yeah.
your credentials, your security measures, your personal data may be floating out there. You may want to protect yourself and your loved ones. Uh, but I mean, again, it's standard fare. It was a month, so I want to try and give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they spent the last, 3 weeks of December trying to make sure that they had all of the information before you go running to your employees saying this is what happens. Because with anything that's of this nature, you're gonna have questions, and you want to have at least the answers. You don't want to shoot it from the hip and give people false information or anything like that, because that can make the situation worse. But yeah, it doesn't look good. I mean, Microsoft's got a bunch of things within Activision itself that it needs to worry about. Again, outstanding lawsuits, unionization efforts, things like that. A hack. It's just one of many other things. But I'm sure they're going to push through with this deal. Speaking of which, of untrustworthy crisis management press releases, Microsoft had its own, with Microsoft saying it fixed Outlook spam problems for now. We were reporting that if you're an Outlook user with a personal Microsoft email account, be it Hotmail, MSN, or Outlook, may have noticed an increase in spam emails, which seemed to have been noticeable roughly 2 months ago. And people started seeing, I mean, Microsoft has always been having issues with Outlook and spam, but apparently in the last 2 months, it's been really bad for a lot of people. That came to a head this week when the offending emails jumped from like 3 to 5 per day for some people to over 20 for some users, including personal emails. There was a Reddit, I believe, thread that just kind of trashed the whole platform of Outlook, saying that Microsoft has no business being an email basically at this point. To that, and I believe Mary Jo Foley was also someone else who noticed it. She was kind of a public figure to speak out about it. I think Thorod's been harping on Outlook for the last 15 years or so. But apparently, I believe it was on Wednesday, they had their Twitter person kind of reach out to the world and say, hey, we fixed it, everybody. Nothing to worry about. They didn't give any explanation on what happened. They didn't give us any log notes. They just kind of spit out saying it's been fixed. Some people have noticed that it is indeed, the spam has gone down, not gone. Probably not even to the level of Google spam filters, but better than what it was about a week and a half ago. So for those of you who have felt like you've been getting more spam emails, Microsoft says it's nothing to worry about, but we've reached out to them ourselves asking like, hey, what was the issue? If you can pinpoint it, that'd be great. So we know what to look out for, or if you have any additional information that we can share with folks. Microsoft has not responded with anything just yet. They may be still investigating the issue, but according to their Outlook's Twitter handle, it's been addressed. So you let us know in the comments or on Twitter or at the bottom of this YouTube channel if you're noticing less spam, because to be honest with you, I'm kind of getting the same amount. Now again, it wasn't crazy, but it was noticeable that I was getting a lot of spam, and I still feel like I'm at that same level. What do you think?
That's what I was going to add. I want to bring something up. I assumed that this was just personal MSA
Yes,
Outlook
correct.
accounts. I did not see anything that impacted the Microsoft 365 paid
The
offering,
exchange, yeah.
correct?
Right, correct.
Okay, that makes sense because I know we use the paid offering in exchange with on Microsoft. I didn't notice an increase
Yeah.
of spam there, but I did certainly notice an increase of spam on my personal account. Probably, it's usually 1 to 2 messages a day. I was probably up to 8 to 10, and I mean, it wasn't necessarily one topic or the other. It was just good old fashioned, back in the day before spam filters become a thing, junk mail. And
Yeah.
to be fair, it's not the levels of Gmail. Gmail was doing a little bit better job. Mine have gone down. I mean, before we started the podcast here, I opened my Outlook inbox and had 2 spam messages in there. That's about normal for me. So I hope they've gotten a handle on it.
Yeah, me too.
Remember, folks, these accounts are free. We're not necessarily paying for them too. So let's keep that in mind as well.
That too, but I mean, to some people's defense, some people use the free accounts to run businesses, out of their homes. If you're like a jewelry
True.
maker, or you're doing some kind of, flea market kind of business, stuff like that. I mean, it is what it is. They offer service. We would like them to offer the best version of the service. But for those of you, like we said, or who are still winning iPods from Nigerian Princess, let us know, and we'll see if we can try to get an answer from Microsoft. What's our next headline?
Well, we've got a little bit of a long one here, guys. I'm going to try to break it down a little bit for you. We've got a new update for Windows 11 coming here real soon called the Moment 2 update.
Okay.
And this is kind of what Microsoft does, I would say, every a little bit better than every quarter. It's a little bit more than your Patch Tuesday. This is where you're going to get your new features, what Microsoft's thinking for the near future. You're going to see more of a UI enhancement type thing. And this is what Microsoft has been busy working on. They've been busy working on the user experience, which we were just talking about, off microphone. And I think, Microsoft has really made a commitment toward user experience and making the operating system more cohesive, and they're going to pick that up with Moment 2 that they expect, as of right now, is expected to ship in March. Some of the things you can look forward to are taskbar enhancements. We're going to talk about the lovely taskbar some more. And let's see, we have tablet mode is going to be a little bit better. They're not necessarily giving great details as to what they're going to do with tablet mode. I'm assuming they're going to make some adjustments of how you navigate your taskbar, maybe the way your keyboard comes up. It says you're going to have access to a new taskbar that is optimized for tablets. So we'll have to see what that gives us. And let's see, we'll have see, we've got search bar and task manager are also getting an update. I'm assuming they're finally going to clean up some of those graphical elements that are in the task manager. I know mine is still a little wonky at times. They're
Yeah,
going to change. Go
I'm
ahead.
wondering if they're going to do more touch-friendly UI like they did with File Explorer, so to speak, that kind of blow up some of the icons and touch points in the same manner.
I hope so, because using Windows right now on a touchscreen is a lot better than it used to be. I know we were talking about the Windows 8 experience on touch, at one point. It's a
Mhm.
lot better than it used to be, but there's still some gaps to fill in as far as the
Like that
touch tablet
much more room to
experience.
go. Yeah.
We've got, let's see, some new energy recommendation settings, and personally, I'm glad to see this. I think we're can all say, hey, if it gets us a little bit better with our battery life, a little more efficient, I'm all for it. So we're going to get some new energy efficiency recommendations where users can easily adjust how long it takes for a device to go to sleep without detecting any input. I wonder if that means they're finally going to fix this thing with laptops where when you close the lid, your laptop doesn't always go to sleep. I know I've got a specific machine, won't call any names, that when I close the lid, it's supposed to go to sleep, but it doesn't. No matter what I do, the fans will continue to run, the fans will turn off and turn on. And we've all talked about it. I believe it was called the battery drain issue at some point, to where when you put your laptop to sleep, you put it in your backpack, and you get to the office the next morning, you open your machine, you go, hey, the battery's dead. So maybe they're going to work on that a little bit. I sure hope so. We're going to get a few more File Explorer tweaks. We got our File Explorer tabs recently. And the search box and results for File Explorer searches are supposed to be displayed instantly. That I'm looking forward to, because I can tell you, folks, when you're searching a big disk volume, it would be nice if those were indexed and would come up just a little bit quicker. Let's see if we have any others worth mentioning. Like I said, this is coming out in March, and there might be a few surprises in there. So we'll just have to wait and see. Microsoft doesn't always give us all the information of what they're putting in the update.
Speaking of things coming out in March, uh, fans, all 13 of you, of Microsoft Teams could be getting a preview of Microsoft's Teams 2.0. Microsoft's on the cusp of releasing a new version of its enterprise chat app, Teams, with a new version built from the ground up that should make using it on a PC much nicer. According to a report from The Verge, sources familiar with the company say there's plans on delivering a Microsoft Teams 2.0 update in preview next month, as soon as next month. So, we don't know exactly when. But for those who find the current version of Microsoft Teams to be a bit sluggish, which I believe is all of us, and a bit of a resource hog, when open, the company's newest version, dubbed Teams 2.0, is rumored to use about 50% less memory, which is amazing. Initiate less strain on the CPU, which is ultimately better for battery management for all of us. Um, Similar to the way that Microsoft rolled out Outlook, people will be able to get this new version of Teams, at least in preview, and toggle between the new version and the old version. So if you have workflows that are based on the old Teams version, you can always go back to that. If you want to try out the new version and you just like the performance on that, you can toggle to that as well. I believe the original version of Teams is built on Electron, if I'm not mistaken, as the architecture, and so they'll be moving from that to more modernized web web app engineering, and so again, that's going to contribute to less resources and being less resource hog. I believe the consumer version of Teams has already made that transition. Nobody uses it, so we can, it's hard for us to really confirm. I mean, we've tried it, but there's a reason why the professional one hasn't just yet, and it's also the reason why they're testing this one right now, because they don't want to kind of mix the two. Eventually, they want to have just the one developer code for this. And again, this is, I believe, in 2021 is when they made the switch to consumer version of Teams being this more lightweight version. The difference between the two apps rests between Electron and Edge WebView 2, WebView 2. So that's what they're going to be moving towards. And they're going to be moving from React to better optimized JavaScript libraries. So for those of you who know all that means, thumbs up. We should be getting, like I said, getting this in March. There has been no mentions, at least not as of yet, whether or not this new version will be available for Windows 10. All the talks have been about Windows 11. I know there are people on Windows 10 who have been using it, and probably will remain on Windows 10. But for the immediate future, it looks like it's going to be Windows 11 preview and release eventually. So Teams 2.0, lighter, faster, coming in March.
Please, Microsoft. Pretty please.
Right.
I mean, we use Teams in our organization, but we're a small organization compared to some, and very small. And even I have noticed during some of our interactions with media and sending things back and forth, and it tends to get sluggish, and the CPU fans come on, and when it gets busy. So I would love to see an overhaul. To me, I don't know. Me and Teams and I have a love-hate relationship. I like what it does, and I like the way it organizes things. I don't always like the way it behaves and the way it displays information. So I'm hoping we kind of get things a little better there. I think, I hate to bring that word up, but more Skype-like. I mean, I hate to say it, but if Teams had a few of the little Skype tendencies, I would personally would like it a little better.
I agree, but we also have to keep in mind that Skype has gone through 5-6 major platform code changes or whatnot. I believe they went through like 2 in like back-to-back years essentially. So it's Teams will replace Skype eventually. It's gonna take them a little bit of time, but yeah, we could all use a much snappier version of Teams, because right now I've getting myself frustrated when I click on somebody's name to chat with them, and it takes them 2 to 3 seconds for that chat to appear, and I've already started clicking on other things, and now I'm jumping back and forth between UIs. So like you said, pretty please, Microsoft, March, give us the things. What else do you got?
There's one thing I'll throw in here. Teams, I got to give Microsoft a little bit of love here. it really happened during the pandemic. We saw all these plugins for Teams and all these, add-ons, and it's just like your Edges of the world and your Google Chromes of the world. The more add-ons you add, it's, you
Sure.
know, third-party code, the slower things you're going to get.
Yep.
So I give Microsoft credit for when things started going crazy in the world, saying, "Hey, here's a platform for add-ins," and there were a lot of things that got dumped in. So
Back
now
to the
let's get in
basics.
there. Yeah, let's get in there and get back to the basics. I think there's a lot of plugins that I don't think are necessarily needed or necessarily used by a lot of people. So if we can trim it down, let's do so.
Agreed. What's another headline we got for this week?
Got one more for you, folks. We're kind of going to shift gears. Looks like we're headed back to layoffs. Meta had originally said, let Meta, Facebook, whichever one you want to use, um, had said, look, there's not going to be any more layoffs, and come to find out that that's not exactly true. They're saying there could be another round of layoffs to trim a portion of its employees from the employment roster, and I think the goal here is to still flatten the company out a little bit. They had already cut 11,000 jobs in November of 2022, and it was necessary, Mark Zuckerberg said, to become more efficient. Now, I'm going to jump out here and say, look, there's arguments over social media. I get it. I understand. And there's arguments over, Twitter's kind of going through the same thing, regardless of what folks think of their new CEO and the man in charge. These social media networks are advertisement driven. Now, Meta does have a few spinoffs. They've got Oculus for VR, and they've got a few other small, things that they have spun off, but they're still ultimately advertised supported. So, what can we expect at this point? Advertising revenue is down. We've got Twitter with the check mark. I saw something this week that Meta is looking at some sort of verified account system. I saw something at $14.99. And people started really laughing about that. And I can see your point, but I think what we've gotten used to is social media has always been free, right? And this is something I promise I won't go too far down this road, but social media has always been free. We can get on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, whichever, TikTok, whichever one we choose to use. We get on there, it's free. We have to remember there's thousands of employees at these places keeping the infrastructure running. That infrastructure cost money. So if you're an advertised supported company, whether you're a search engine or not, or a social media platform or not, when the advertising revenue goes down, you've got to do something. You've got to cut employees. It's really all you have to work with. You either cut employees or you cut product lines, or the third option is you go to the folks using your platform and say, hey, we need you to pay a few bucks to stay here. And social media is baked into our daily lives. I understand that. I get that. But we got to keep the thing running. We got to keep the thing running, folks. And, everything happens on social media. There are some folks that believe pay a few bucks and maybe it sort of gets, cuts the fat, if you will, for those that will pay and those that won't. We'll have to see how it plays out, but doesn't surprise me that there's another round of layoffs. I've seen something that there are still job cuts going on at Twitter. I've not seen anything, unless you have, Kareem, from the other social media networks. I've
I
just
mean,
seen.
I think everyone
Go ahead.
did their big announcement of job cuts, and they will continue to trickle job cuts along the way for the rest of the year. Hopefully, for everyone's sake, we're down from the tens of thousands at one time
Hmm.
to a couple hundred here and there as the months go on. To your point, yeah, these businesses are looking at maintaining profitability. I do want to say that I personally fault Zuckerberg's massive pivot to Meta in the way that he did it, because I don't believe
I do too.
customers are there just yet for this. And maybe, like you said, he's trying to get ahead of the curve. He's trying to find a new revenue stream, but to the way that he leaned into this may have been a knee-jerk reaction that's cost people jobs and potentially could affect their lives. We're about to hopefully go into a mild recession, but that still means people are jobless. And even if you had a high-paying job at Facebook, um, you have probably have high-paying, high bills, things like that. Like it all balances out, and we would like to keep as many people employed. So people who employ people need to have better vision, in my opinion. um,
Totally
maybe
agree.
you go from 11,000 to 5,000 because the Oculus doesn't work, but you don't bet the farm and then have to get rid of 11,000 people because of that. So um, let's get off of something so depressing and get into our last one. And maybe this will make people motivated. Microsoft's announcing Inspire 2023 dates alongside Partners of the Year nominations. For those of you who don't know what Inspire is, it's another Microsoft conference where Microsoft likes to thank people who have done great things with their products, essentially. Microsoft's Deanna Meyer has announced that the company's annual partner event, Inspire 2023, is set to take place on July 18th through the 19th of 2023. The all-digital event is free to attend, which is great, thus giving partners access across the globe the opportunity to be a part of it. Microsoft has indicated that the registration should be open in the next coming months, so just check back either on our site, or you can go to, I believe, microsoftinspired.com, or you know what? Have the Bing Chat AI direct you. What's more, the
There
company
you
has
go.
what's more, the company has also highlighted that its annual Partner of the Year awards is now open for nominations. So if you think you're a business that has done some great things with the Surface product, Microsoft 365, Azure, all of the things, you can nominate yourself, or nominate your business, or nominate a supervisor or whatnot. This year's Microsoft has also added two new awards. They seem to be doing that every year. I believe the first reward is the Fast Track Ready Award, and the GSI, which stands for, or GSI Growth Champion Award. The former recognizes partner excellence in assisting customers to realize values through delivery of the fast track benefit for Microsoft 365, while the latter is for Microsoft GSI or advisory partners who have demonstrated significant growth across multiple solution areas, solution plays, and industries and/or regions. Head to Microsoft Partner of the Year Awards website to check out the full list of awards, and be sure to submit your nominations if you meet the criteria. Interested parties should note that the deadline for making these submissions will lapse on April 5th at around 6 o'clock Pacific, so get those in there. You have about a month, so if you're a procrastinator, start procrastinating now, I suppose. But yeah, again, these are Microsoft Partner Awards. So if you are selling a product, or or you've been working with the business, partnering with the business that does some really cool things, go ahead and submit. And we'd love to see when when Inspire does happen, some of you people show up on the screen. That'd be great.
I think this is seems small to some folks, but the partners are kind of what makes some of these companies go around.
Huge.
And you know, it's more than just walking into Best Buy or going to MicrosoftStore.com and clicking buy. And for businesses, you get the UPS truck with the box of Surface products. There's the whole implementation. There's the whole setting it up. There's the whole making the ecosystem work. There's the hooking everything together. And that's where your partners come in. The partners are the partners for businesses are the legs that make the products in the boxes work. And it's nice to see them finally, getting a little bit more recognition. I know the partner program at Microsoft changed a little bit a few years ago, and there were a lot of people upset. I think, some of the smaller organizations kind of got moved. I think some of them got chopped out due to requirements a little bit. So it's not, and we hadn't seen a whole lot of partner love since, unless I have missed it. So I'm glad to see that Microsoft says, hey, let's recognize our partners, because without partners, we might not have a Surface Pro. We might not have some of the software that we have, especially over on the business side, the Windows servers, the Microsoft Exchange, because these CEOs buy it and they call the partners in to say, hey, now implement it. So without the partners, we're in a different place.
I agree. We want to thank you guys again for hanging out with us for another week. We hope you enjoyed your reprieve from all things ChatGPT. I think we had one mention this time in the podcast. We tried to consciously put together a list of topics and interests that didn't involve a moody teenage-ish chat bot. So if you were looking for that, go join another podcast now that you finished this one. But for those of you who were looking to take a breather, we'd like to say you're welcome. Where can people find you?
David PAJ1978 on Twitter. I'll be glad to interact with you guys. Jump over there and say hello.
You can find me at Mindhead1 on Twitter as well. I react in GIFs, so don't expect long conversations with me. That's what the podcast is for. But you can also drop down in the comments of my posts, visit our website for some more information and things about gaming and whatnot. Like I said, we hope you guys enjoyed this week's worth of news. Again, there's a mighty big world of Microsoft stuff that revolves or involves stuff that isn't ChatGPT. So we're going to try and refocus on all of those things as well. We should have some big news about some Windows stuff. And I think if you want to go check our site, there's some stuff about a potential hardware. If you guys are interested in the Surface Laptop Studio, that we have some information about that. So go check our site for more information. And go enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Take care, everybody.